Nice to have prayer that the Spirit will have peace, things like that. Let me just share a couple of stories. I grew up in a little town called Brentwood. And Brentwood it's the poor Brentwood, not the rich Brentwood of O.J. Simpson fame. But we're Northern California. And we used to go, our stake center used to be in Stockton. And the thing between Brentwood and Stockton was a whole bunch of levees. Because what the Chinese, what they did is they brought in a whole bunch of laborers, and they built these levees and pumped it out, and that area is probably some of the most rich and fertile ground in the world. And I have a friend who was my best friend in high school. He was driving from Brentwood to Stockton, and he was on one of those levees. And it was a foggy day, and he was driving too fast. And what happened is they were repairing a bridge, and so there was a detour. And needless to say, he didn't notice because of his speed and hit the bridge and the pilings and died. Story number 2, another good friend in high school, he and a bunch of our Mormon friends, they were sitting there driving back, and one of the guys got the bright idea, hey, why don't I just turn the key off? Wouldn't that be funny? To just kind of turn the key off, and, as we're driving, and just see what that would do. And so we did. Of course, what happens when you turn the key off? Yeah, it locks the steering wheel. And needless to say, what they did is they hit an embankment. Luckily, no one was killed. Third story, I was come back from my mission. I was working for my dad. My dad was doing construction. And I'll tie all of these together. And we'd finished, my dad built marinas. And so we built boat docks. And we basically built anything my dad could make money at. But I was driving an F600 truck, which is just a tandem axle, 2-speed axle. It had about a 16-foot bed on it. And behind that, I had a 20-foot trailer. On top of that, I had a 6,000-pound forklift. We were taking it from one job to the other. And Austin will know about this place. It's called Old River. The slough comes like this, and the highway comes like this, comes around. And then you'll cross it here, and then it comes back on this. And so I'm 22-year-old kid. I think I'm doing pretty good. I'm about 60 feet long. And needless to say, I guess in reality it's probably a little closer here. When I cut this, I cut it just a little bit too short. And that the first tire it was a tandem axle trailer. The first tire on that tandem axle trailer hit the curb on the bridge there. And I was only doing probably about 5 or 6 miles an hour, but because there was so much weight on that trailer, it blew the tire, it bent the axle. And this was probably 1978, I did about $3,000 worth of damage. And so you're probably wondering about what do these 3 stories have to do with personal finance. Let me just go back to story number 1. My best friend who was driving too fast. And the point is, we can't drive too fast. We can't go too fast in the things that we're doing in personal finance. You need to remember the law of the harvest. Save for what you want. Don't borrow for it. Don't go faster than you have resources. Story number 2. With my friend who just, and these are my buddies. We used to call us the 3 Musketeers. These were good friends. You've got to take, just like you have to take driving seriously, you have to take your personal finance seriously. It's not the big things, it's the little things that'll get you. It's that Jamba Juice 3 times a week. It is, they talk the Starbucks effect. It's those things. You need to watch your finances every day and every hour. And then the third thing, on that trailer, I didn't mean to, but I cut the corner a little bit. And the truth is, you can't take shortcuts. You can't cut corners. There are no shortcuts to financial security. There's no get-rich-quick schemes that work. There's get-rich-quick schemes that will make you lose your money, but none of them that work. What it takes is sacrifice, discipline, the law of the harvest. All these things are still in effect. So, just some thoughts from Brentwood, California. Okay, we have our budgets due and our investment plans. If you can just pass them all to the aisles here, and then they can just hand them on down. We'll kind of go ahead.
Do we pass on our service living projects as well?
Yeah, service as well. Austin, you missed my stories about Brentwood. Okay. Oh, and you said you were going to come up. Let me just do the first. I'll do the first part, then I'll. Okay. Today we're going to talk about Social Security first, and then the second thing we're going to do is we're going to wrap up the section on retirement planning. My goal, hopefully, is hopefully to scare you to realize that Social Security is not going to be much. It'll probably be there in some form. My second goal is to help you to realize that you need to save and you need to start now. It's funny, over the last few days, I spent a lot of time with people talking about this very subject. And the whole key that I'm realizing is if you can start once you get out of school, and if you can start saving that 20%, then when you get to be part of the OGC, the Old Geezers Club like myself, you can sit back and you'll have the resources to do the things that you need. So we need to be wise. And so as part of your financial plan, each of you are going to need to get a copy of your Social Security statement. Now, what I want most people to realize is how little you will have there. And so what I ask Owen if he'd come up and do this. And if you want to grab out your computers, we can all do it at the same time. But everyone's going to need to get your Social Security statement. It used to be you'd have to go online, and then 6 weeks later you get it. And some people, we have international students who may not have it, so there's actually an estimator you can use here. So what we're going to do is he's going to go to ssa.gov. I did this a year ago, and I went on yesterday to update it or to take a look at it. You can just click on that. And I couldn't remember my password, and it locked me out. Okay, so what we want to do, come down to the bottom, sign in or create an account. So Owen's going to create an account. So so create an account. So what do you need? Valid email, address, Social Security. Okay, continue. Okay, name is shown, and you want to hide that for us. So he's just going to be filling out that information. Yep. And while he's doing that, let's talk about Social Security. What is Social Security? Something that's not going to be around.
Something I've been told to forget about.
What do you think? Thomas, what do you think?
Well, it's just a government program designed to help to provide a way for people to retire, and
Okay.
it's changed a lot.
Changed a lot. What was originally set up? Yeah, why was it originally set up? Really, originally it was set up to keep moms in the home with their kids, to a large degree. It was to aid the displaced and the out of work. And it was a tough time. You just had the stock market crash of 1929. Stock market fell 64% in 2 years. You had the banking crisis. You had a GDP decline from 29 to 1933. GDP fell in half. And so 9,000 banks failed, and depositors lost over $7 billion in assets. And I know that doesn't sound like much right now, but back then, it was a huge amount.
It said it couldn't create an account.
Said it couldn't have created an account? Okay. Couldn't create an account. Are you really who you say you are?
I am.
Okay. Anybody able to create an account? Okay, well, let's go to Plan B. Okay, Owen, thank you. What you can do is you can go online and you should be able to get your account. Some of you may not have enough history. Some of you may not have enough history. In fact, most of you probably don't. But I'd like you to at least go online and see if you have any information. Oh, and thank you. And then if you do, you can print off a copy of it. And if you don't, you just say, okay, I don't have enough history. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you mine as of a couple years ago. And we'll just kind of go through here. In fact, let's do. So, why are we talking about Social Security and retirement planning? Thoughts? Jordan. Okay. Yeah. Was Social Security set up to be 100% of everybody's retirement? Is that the only thing? However, what do you think most people now, for most people, how much money have most people saved for retirement? Yeah, $45,000 or less. And those are people age 45 and above. And so the point here is we need to understand it because for many people, this is all that they're going to get. And ideally, hopefully we understand the importance of it. Let me just show you the huge numbers. And then we'll talk about the I just thought I'd put some of my numbers at 862. My payment would be $1,100 a month. How old do you think it's going to be to survive on $1,100 a month? Not even sure college students can survive on that much. Or if I wait till 66 in 2 months, it'd be $1,500. Age 70, it'd be $2,000. Are these huge amounts? And I think the answer is yes, they're not. So realize that this is a tool. It was never meant to be your entire retirement plan. In fact, on the previous Social Security statements, it said Social Security was roughly to be about 1/3. I think about 38% is what they had expected. So it's important that we understand it. Social Security, is it like a bank account when you pay? Do you put it in a bank account for Brian Sudweeks so when I retire? No. Some countries it is. Singapore, you've got your Central Provident Fund. Chile, you got your 457 plans. Things like that. But in the U.S., it's not. What is the U.S.? Yeah, it's actually a pass-through account. The money that comes from current workers actually goes to pay existing workers. Does that scare you when that's the case? Realize in 1935, when it was set up, there was 17 workers for every recipient. Realize by 2015, there's going to be less than 2. Does that scare you? And you know what? Your group, your generation's going to be subsidizing my generation. Okay. Just to make you feel guys good. So how much do you pay? OASDI, 6.2%, Medicare tax, 7.65%. You pay Social Security tax, the maximum up to this. You pay that 6.2%. Anything above that, a Medicare tax, there is no maximum. And realize that amount changes year to year. How it works. So Social Security, OASDI, taxes, wages, salaries. Any salary reduction plans. Not included any sick pay after 6 months, employer payments for medical, hospital expenses, contributions to qualified retirement plans. So it covers most things. Let's talk about a couple of terms. Average indexed monthly earnings. This is your 35 highest earning years. Any idea why it's the 35 highest earning years? Does that increase the aim or does that decrease it? It actually decreases the aim. So that includes years when you're first starting out. Primary insurance amount, it's the basic unit to express the amount of your benefit. And what it is, your PIA is actually based on what's called bend points. And we'll actually go over that in a little bit. So split into 3 segments, multiplied by specific percentages, and summing up the parts. So this is how you figure out what it is. So these are numbers for 2013. Let's say you made $60,000 a year or $5,000 a month. You'd pay 90% of the first $791. 32% of any earnings between $791 and $4768. And then 15% of earnings above that. And that's how you calculate your primary insurance amount. So again, if it's $5,000 a month, 90% of $791 or $711, 32% of the difference here, or $1,200, 15% of that, $34. So your PIA would be roughly $2,000. So it's kind of an interesting thing. How they came up with all the things, I don't have a clue. But it's important that we understand. So here's kind of the way it works. You can see how the formula changes. Here's your first bend point. Here's your second bend point. And again, here it is for family benefits. Full retirement age. What that is that's the age at which you receive full benefits. So once you've calculated your primary insurance amount, my full retirement age is, I think, 66. Well, let's see what it is. I was born in 55, so I'm 66 in 2 months. Most of you, your full retirement age is 67. So if I retire or start drawing Social Security at age 66 in 2 months, I would get my full retirement benefit, my primary insurance amount. Now what happens if I take it before then? Notice that you can retire starting at age 62. So what the government does is if you take retirement prior to full retirement age, you get less because likelihood is that the government's going to continue to pay you for more years.
That's only when you ask them to pay it. Like you can, I don't know, suppose I'm really successful and I retire at 55.
Right.
I can live on what I've got until
Correct.
60, whatever. Okay.
Right. And then what happens if you retire later than your full retirement age? You can get an increase in the payment each month. So let's talk about who's insured. The way it works, a worker is insured once they have 40 quarters of earnings. And so if you've got 40 quarters of earnings, and the way they calculate a quarter of earnings is you've made at least the minimum this amount per quarter, then you are entitled to Social Security benefits. So you work for 10 years and you get 30 years or however long of payments. I'm not sure if I was an insurance company, I would want that. And then to be current insured status, you have to have worked a minimum of 6 quarters in the previous 13 quarters. So what are the benefits? So benefits are really divided into 4 areas. Retirement, disability, survivors, and Medicare. And then again, it calculated using your AIM and your primary insurance amount. And really to figure out how much you get, you just calculate your primary insurance amount and when you take the benefits. So it's really two fairly simple calculations. So retirement benefits. You can begin receiving benefits as early as age 62. However, if you do that, if you take benefits 3 years before full retirement age, it'll be reduced by 20%. And you can actually take it up to 5 years before full retirement. In that case, 5% for your 20%, so you'd receive only 70% of your primary insurance amount if you take it up to 5 years early. If you delay taking Social Security. So for example, 1943, for each year you delay beyond full retirement age, you would take an 8% increase. So if you let's say Grant decided instead of his full retirement age is 67, but he decided to wait till age 70 to take it, then he would get 8% times 3 is 24%. Instead of getting his primary insurance amount, let's say in this account was $2,000, he would get that $2,000 times 1 plus 24%. So basically he'd get $2,250 a month beyond there. So do we understand how that works? Calculate. First of all, you get your average index monthly earnings, which is your top 35 years. From that, you calculate your primary insurance amount. You use those bend points, which change year to year. And then based on that primary insurance amount, and when you decide to begin receiving benefits, that would give you your amount. So it'd be your primary insurance amount, either times an increase if you were delaying retirement, or times a decrease if you are taking retirement early. And family benefits. Realize there's a maximum by family. So certain benefits are constrained by the family benefit. They'll give so much up to the family maximum. So how about a spouse? You know, my wife has worked in the home. What about her retirement benefits? And generally what the spouse is entitled to, either the higher the benefit from their employment or half of the worker's primary insurance amount. So based on what her insurance benefit would be, she would either get the higher of half mine or her full amount. And then you've got disability benefits. You've got spouse's benefits, and a number of things there. And so just a chart. Worker under full retirement, reduced, disability 100%. Spouse age 60 or 61. So notice that the spouse has to be at least 62 to start taking benefits. If you're caring for a child under 16 or disabled, you can see what those benefits are. So it's important that we understand. Again, anyone able to go online and pull up their benefits? Okay. Do you want to bring your, do you mind?
I'm fine.
Yeah. Eric, just come on up and we'll just.
It's on my Dropbox.
Oh, it's on your Dropbox?
Yeah.
It's a lot more fun to see someone else's than see mine. Okay. So Eric, what you did is you went on, filled in the information. Were you surprised? Or,
I was surprised how much I had.
okay, let's just start here. Without changes in 2033, the Social Security Trust Fund will be able to only pay about 75 cents. The interesting thing is 2 years ago, that was 2037. So our government's doing really well. Okay, come on down. In fact, this one's 2009. It says by 2041, the Social Security Trust Fund will be exhausted. There will be enough money to pay only 78 cents. Okay, so look how much he's got a month. So how many quarters? So he's got 28 credits at this time. He needs 40 credits. So he's been working for 7 years, something like that. So here's family survivors, retirement. He doesn't have enough for retirement, but if something happened to him, these are some amounts that would go to spouse and children. Date of birth? No. Okay. How hard was it to bring it up?
It wasn't very hard.
Yeah, it wasn't hard at all. So what you'll do, and the reason I want you to have this, and you'll just print it off, notice that there's no Social Security numbers or anything like that on this at all. So there may be some earnings numbers. If you want to just black those out, just give me a printed copy and black those out. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Eric, thank you. And that's basically, what I do. But I want you to see how much you would get. And the truth is there's not much there. And the challenge is that lots of people are depending on Social Security. And it's going to be a challenge for them. And so let's be wise in what we do. Okay, let's just do a bunch of case studies just so we can kind of reinforce these things. Bill was born in 1940. He plans to retire at age 70 and 6 months. His PI is $1,200. He knows his PI will increase by 7% each year beyond full retirement age. Beyond full retirement, he takes retirement. What will his retirement benefit be at 5 years beyond full retirement age? How do we calculate that? Don't everybody speak at once? So what are the two things we need to determine how much you get? You need to determine your primary insurance amount and his full retirement age. So what's his full retirement age? So 65. So he was born. So 65 and 6 months. If he's going to take it 5 years beyond, how much will he get each year? 7% more. So someone want to multiply 1,200 times 1.7 times 5 is 35%. So how much will he get?
So my question, it doesn't compound then?
No, it doesn't.
It just goes up by,
Yeah.
okay.
And realize, think of it kind of like an annuity. If I take it 5 years later, it gives it some time for that to grow. So in this case here, 5 beyond his full retirement age, 7% a year. So 7% is 35% times 1,200. Basically, you get $1,620 a month. So are there advantages to waiting a little bit farther? Yeah. Okay, here's another one. His full retirement age is 67. If he begins retiring 3 years early, his PA will be reduced by 20%. Each year before that, it'll be reduced by 5%. So let's say Steve decides to retire at age 62. If his PIA is $1,300, how much would he receive each month if he retired at age 62? What did you get? Okay. Scott. So we know 62, 5/9 times 36 would be 20%. 5/12 times 24 is 10%. So basically $910 each month. But do we get a sense? I realize some of these rules are kind of arcane and kind of different, but it based on average index monthly earnings, which is used to calculate your primary insurance amount based on those bend points. And then depending on when you take retirement, that's the impact there. Okay? Now we've got a couple. His wife was born in 58. They both plan receiving Social Security benefits when Ann reaches full retirement age. And Ann reaches full retirement. Sam will be 3 years beyond. Assuming Sam's PA is $1,500 and Ann is only $600, how much would each receive at retirement? And what would be their combined amount? Eight o'clock in the morning is kind of a kind of a tough time, I agree. So how much does a spouse get? Right, so she gets the higher of her amount or half the spouse's. So Sam, how much would Sam get at retirement? So how many years beyond full retirement age is he looking at? 3 years beyond. So his is $1,500, so how much would he receive? Okay, 1860. So 1,500 times 1 plus 24%. How about Ann's? So she'd get the half of that. Does she get half of the 18 or half of the 15? So he would get 1860. He would get the half of her spouse's PIA before the increase. In this case, she would get the 750. Matt?
So why in the previous case was it an increase of 7% per year, but this one is 8% per year? What determines that?
The year you were born. So the other person was born in 1940, and in, I believe it's 8% after 19. Yeah, so the year you were born. So their combined benefit would be 1860 or 2610 per month. Okay, now how about survivor benefits?
I had a
Jared?
question on the last slide. Can the wife start taking out Social Security and the husband doesn't touch his Social Security so it can grow?
Yes.
But she can still get the 750 because she doesn't get advantage for waiting.
Right. So you can. If she starts at a full retirement age. What happens if she starts at prior to full retirement age? They get the lower amount. Okay. Steve was currently insured at a PEI of 1,200 when he passed away. The family maximum was $2,450. How much would Jenny receive? And with each of the children. So the way it works with survivor benefits, it's 75% of his PA, regardless of her age. There's children in the home under 18. So 75% of Steve's PIA, or $900 per month. The children's primary insurance amounts would also be, however, because she's already received $900, they would only receive together the amount up to the family maximum of $1,550. So realize those family maximums come in.
How long does she get that?
I believe it's until, she'll continue to get that until the kids are older than 18.
So then after they're 18, does she still get the 900?
I believe she would still get the 900.
So, because my father-in-law passed away, and so my mother-in-law
Okay.
had a son coming in, and she also had a son who was in the home who was under 18, and I know that he got some money.
Okay.
But I was just curious, like, how long?
Yeah, you know what? That's a good question. Let me find out for
She's
sure.
like remarried now. It's not like she really needs the money
Uh-huh.
anymore. So it's
Yeah.
just interesting.
But it is, you know, I had my parents-in-law. I mean, the Social Security was kind of the main thing. When my mother-in-law passed away, it kind of cut back on his lifestyle a little bit as well.
Can Jenny receive that, like, say she's 10 years younger than her husband? Is it based on his retirement age or hers?
Because there's children in the home, she'll receive it. Just because, right.
Well, not in this case, but the last one where he isn't dead.
Oh.
It's just when can she receive it? Is it
When she, up to 5 years before, she cannot receive it before, before age 62 and a half, or 5 years before full retirement age. Okay, so let's go through here. Bob has an aim of $5,200 per month. Based on these breakpoints, how would you calculate what his primary insurance amount would be? So what was it, 90%, 32%, and 15%? I think those were those numbers. Let's go through it here. So the bend points, 90% of the first 791, 32% of earnings between 4768 and 791, and 15% of earnings beyond that. And so what we would do, 90% of 791 is basically 712. 32% of 3977 is 1273. 15% of 432 is 65. And then we just add those together. So does that make sense? Are we getting a sense on what Social Security is and on how you calculate these? Basically, our bend points and how the bend points have changed over time. Okay, now let's go on how is Social Security taxed. And receive $11,000 in Social Security benefits in 2013. Their AGI, which is taxable pensions, wages, interest, and different dividends, was $2,250. They had $1,500 in tax-exempt interest. How do you calculate their provisional income? And how much of Tyler, glad you feel it. Glad you can make it. So how do you figure out how much of Social Security income is taxable? You guys remember how we did that? So let's just kind of go through here. What the government does is, depending on how much provisional income you have, it says how much of Social Security benefits are taxable. If your provisional income is less than $25,000 or $32,000 married filing jointly, none of your benefits are taxable. If your middle income, $32,000 to $44,000, 50% of your benefits are included in taxable income. And if you're high income, again, greater than $44,000 married filing jointly, then 85% of their benefits. So if we calculate their provisional income, $22,500 plus $1,500 plus, why do we 11,000 divided by 2? Gives them $2,950. The $2,950 is less than the $34,000, basically, or the $32,000. So basically, none of that is taxable. So they'll just pay taxes on the other income that they have. So questions on Social Security. Again, we have you calculate your Social Security, get your Social Security benefits, so you can see how little you'll get. And again, if we don't prepare for retirement, no one else will. And so the challenge is for us to kind of be wise in what we do. So questions on Social Security. You know how it's calculated. You know what the benefits are, or at least you can find what the benefits are. You realize that it's two things. It's your primary insurance amount, and we know how to calculate that, and it's when you decide to take your benefits. And so what you could do is you could retire. Someone commented about retiring at 55, and then you may not take your benefits, Social Security benefits, until age 70. So, but it's all part of the puzzle, the retirement planning puzzle. Questions on Social Security? Okay, what I'd like to do now is, we just had a number of questions. So we just had like a dozen questions that people had sent in, and so I thought I'd go through these. Number one, what are some of the strategies for accumulation stage? I hate to say it, on Saturday I finally sat down and did my taxes, and as part of that I realized I hadn't contributed to a 401k, an IRA for 2012 and 2013. And so what I did is I actually took money out of my Vanguard, one fund that was a taxable account, and moved it into the Roth IRAs for both myself and my wife. And so my strategy there, one strategy is to move funds into Roth accounts, because that way I don't have to pay taxes on them. So I'm taking taxable money and transitioning it to non-taxable accounts.
You pay the taxes between transfers.
Right, and I'll pay the taxes this year. So give me some examples of strategies. You guys have to do this for your retirement plan. You have to have strategies for accumulation, strategies for retirement, and strategies for decumulation. What are some of the strategies that we have? Save how much?
20%.
Save your, and is that a hard and fast rule? No. Has that changed over time? Yes. It was 10 at first, and then I realized you probably need a little bit more. And and I'm sitting back here from having followed that rule. And was it easy? No. It was a challenge. But am I glad I did it? And the answer is yes. So you can do it. Gross. And we actually did a little bit more than that. And I was in an industry that's very volatile. And so if any of you are in similar investment banking, investment management, I'd probably kick it up a little bit as well. So ideas for strategies. We had talked about these. Save 20%, half into retirement plans, follow the priority, always get your free money first. Lots of different ones. The point here is you need to have a strategy. What's your plan? Again, it's decide, commit, believe, achieve. And so decide what you want. Commit to a goal. Believe that if it's a righteous goal, the Heavenly Father can help you, and then accomplish it. How about retirement strategies? Everyone's just quiet. We're all tired. I know. Stayed up late watching the game last night. Go Cougs. Good game. So what do you think, Austin?
There one where you have the minimum withdrawal amount.
You have minimum withdrawal amount.
You can roll that over into the Roth IRA.
Okay.
So you can not have that.
Okay, so part of it too is at retirement, you may have to, you can figure out how much you need, but take a minimum withdrawal amount if you don't need it, when you turn age 70 and a half, and this is more a distribution strategy. But you can roll that over into an IRA as well. Grant? Annuity. And that's kind of the one we think about here. So figure out what your minimum acceptable level of retirement income is. What's the minimum you need to survive? And so what you do is you figure that, and then you subtract out Social Security. How much will you get from Social Security? Subtract out anything you'll get from a defined benefit plan if you have one. And then, depending on how much you have, in your account, you could actually buy an annuity, or you give them $500,000, insurance company a certain amount of money, and then they'll guarantee payment for the rest of your life, or for you and your spouses. So in that way, all of your minimum expenses will be covered. Probably at retirement, and it would be an immediate annuity, because those are some of that have the lowest fees, and you would be very careful when you do that. Also, at this here, with your spouse, determine how much you need at retirement. You want that minimal survival level, and then invest the remainder consistent with your risk level. And strategies for distribution. Again, use money from your deferred retirement accounts first till you get some target level of taxes to be paid. Second, if you're required to take minimum distributions, roll them over into another rollover IRA account. Third, something I've seen, 3 to 5 to 4% take out a year. And then use time on your missions to transfer money to Roth accounts, which I think is a good thing. And again, just more ideas. So here's an important part. While it's important to help your kids who are having financial problems, What happens when we do too much for them? Yeah, they rely on you too much. And the thing here is I know parents who have take money out of their retirement accounts to pay for their kids' education. You know, is that really a good idea, or should you make sure your retirement is sure first? And then if you have the resources to help your kids on your education. So be careful. You know, we want to help our kids, and I know I've got 7 kids. And we want to help them, but we have to be wise in what we do. Realize that we can't help them too much. And so wisdom and judgment and inspiration are important as we work with our kids. Question 4, how do you determine the taxable retirement split? Any ideas? Go ahead, Ben. Or Eric, go ahead. And a lot of it depends on what available instruments you have right now. When you're starting off, you could probably put 100% in retirement accounts and still not, you know, and still have room. As you get older, you'll probably have less room. It's pretty arbitrary, but a lot of it depends on your goals. And so just be wise in what you do. So first goal, you know, 50% is a good starting point. That's probably, I'd do half and half. And then from then on, I just kind of determine based on my goals. For most people, what you're going to be doing as soon as you graduate, what's the first thing you're going to be saving for or investing in? Yeah, your emergency fund. What's the next thing after that? Down payment on your house. So that's probably, and as you're doing these things, the only recommendation I would do is make sure you get your company match. So put in enough to get your company match, build your emergency fund, get your down payment, and then once you get that house, then you go full bore into retirement and other things here. So, question 3, why do I have to pick funds? Can't I just use Morningstar star rankings? Anyone saw those and wondered about those? Why can't we just use those? There's actually been research on this. Rankings have no predictive value of future performance. And we were a 5-star fund for a while where I previously worked, and boy, money just poured in. We went from like 200 million to almost $1 billion in about a very short period of time. So realize those companies have the highest inflows of fund, and it's just harder to put all these funds to work effectively. So here's some things. 1990, only 4 kept that rank after 10 years. Almost all typically lag behind their category averages. And so realize that, you know, the best performing funds change. And so key, if we can go back to the principles of successful investing, we'll make a lot better change.
Is that, on that last slide, is that true as far as more assets, it's harder to put all this new money to work effectively if it's an index fund? Because shouldn't it just be taking all that new money and just buying?
Right, if it's an index fund is easy. Most of these are not index funds.
Okay.
So what they're trying to do is they're trying to be the number 1 or the highest 10%. You know, we all know what the principles are. You know, low cost, tax efficiently. Ratings should just be one part of that analysis. You know, and if you'll follow the principles, you'll do a lot better than those who just blindly follow Morningstar ratings or other things here. Tax implications between Roth and traditional.
I just had a question.
Okay.
Going back to that other one. When I was looking up the different funds, when it says like the minimum purchase amount,
Okay.
Does that mean like every month if I want to put money into that fund, I have to put that minimum amount, or just the first time?
It's the first time. So you need a $3,000 or $1,000 or something like that. What is an automatic investment program? Some of them will have 0 AIP, and then AIP is $100. So if you allow them to, and AIP is an automatic investment program, and if you'll allow them to take $100 out of your checking account every month, they will waive that minimum purchase there. Now they still charge you if you're less than like $10,000, but at least that's a good way to start. Okay, I think we've kind of hit this one pretty hard. The difference between Roth and the traditional. So we won't do too much on that. But again, realize the choice between a Roth and a traditional is 5 things. Number 1, what's your expected tax rate in retirement? Number 2, do you need the tax benefit now? Number 3, do you have the money to pay the taxes outside of the tax vehicle? Number 4, might you need some principal before retirement and you want to take that out without penalty and without taxes? And number 5, do you want to save more for retirement? And again, I like that number 5 one. Again, if I'm putting money, if I want to save more for retirement, I put it in the Roth vehicle because I'm paying the taxes outside of the vehicle. So instead of putting in that $5,500, if my tax rate is 25%, then I'm in essence putting in around $6,500, which is, my taxes plus that amount there. Question number 7, should I have both tax-limited and tax-deferred assets in my retirement plan? What do you guys think? So Matt, why?
Well,
Other than diversification.
I mean, you have a limited amount of how much you can put into the different plans per year, right?
Okay.
So you want to maximize the amounts that you can take advantage of low tax rates now and things like that.
Okay. So here's just a thought. U.S. tax rate's progressive. So notice for the first $17,850, you're taxed only at 10% and only at 15% between $17,850 and $72,50. So by having both traditional and Roth vehicles, you can manage your tax rates. So some target percentage, just say 10%. Then you take additional funds from your Roth. And so the point here is we can manage. How much can I take out of my tax deferred plan each year and still pay 0% tax or 10% tax? Thoughts on that? How could we figure that out? You guys remember, let's go back to the tax side.
Like the amount of your adjustments and your exemptions.
So we can start with exemptions. What's that? 2013 is like $3,900 each. And then our deductions. So for example, if for zero tax, personal exemption, so $3,900 times 2 for 2 people. Say you're married, standard deductions $12,200, and you can do more if you have an itemized deduction. So we add those up together, so $20,000. So I could take $20,000 out of my tax deferred accounts and pay 0 tax. So if I wanted to pay 0 tax, I'd take 20,000 out of my tax deferred accounts and everything else out of my Roth. Now, what if I wanted to only pay 10% tax? And I'd only be paying 10% on the amount, on this amount here. So I'd pay roughly less than $2,000. In that case, I would take $37,850 out of that account. Or, if you have investment income and things, minus any of your investment income, and then I'd be paying only 10%. Yes?
This is assuming that you've stopped having outside of these retirement accounts other investments.
Correct.
producing
So what you'd have to do is you'd take $37,850 minus whatever investment income you had. But do you see the logic behind this? The logic is we manage our assets. Let's manage our money coming out of these accounts as well to be wise in what we do.
About rolling over 401k into a Roth,
Okay.
Are you paying the tax rate as soon as it's converting over?
Right, so you pay the tax rate as, if you roll it from a traditional into a Roth, you actually have to receive it, and then it becomes included as taxes, and then you roll it into the Roth.
Is it possible to roll it over then in pieces then?
You can,
Okay.
yeah, depending on how much taxes you're willing to pay. So question here is, how do I manage my tax rate in retirement here? So, we talked about this. And the key is, okay, figure out what tax rate you want to pay, then work your rates accordingly. So in my case, I think our goal is roughly about 60% tax deferred and 40% tax eliminated. And so we figure that that's kind of a good goal. And my wife and I will continue to convert traditional and tax-deferred accounts into Roths when we go on missions in 6 years. So the point here is let's just be wise what we can do. And the nice thing is, at least if we're thinking about it now, we can set up some goal, 75-25 or 50-50 of our Roth and taxable accounts. But this $1 million we're going to save you, there's a lot of little pieces to that puzzle. What are your difference in choosing assets for an IRA versus a 401k? So generally, if you have an IRA that you set up with Vanguard or Fidelity or Schwab or TD Ameritrade or things like this, generally you can put any asset in that you want. There's some restrictions, but not. With a 401k, you're limited to the mutual funds that the 401k provider has. Generally, your 401k, they will have made agreements with the mutual fund companies, and so the management fees are significantly less than what you would pay, again, if you're just putting money in a separate account. But so this one here, IRA, generally you can pick more, you've got more flexibility in picking the assets. 401k, you've got less flexibility. Generally, the 401k here has lower management fees.
So typically the 401ks with those lists provided, they provide index funds too, or is it just?
They might. Generally, what you'll have to do is your asset class is large cap. Look, that most, the number of options that 401k providers generally ranges from about 10 to about, I think GE has like 85. So just kind of take a look and find the one that gives you the best exposure to the asset class that you have. And then the nice thing about a 401k, you know what your allocation is. I'm 50% large cap, I'm 20% small cap, 10% REIT, and 20% international or something like this. And so it can be building your allocation as you go along. Remember the question, how is Social Security benefits taxed? I can see, again, our classification, again, your provisional income is your adjusted gross income plus tax-exempt interest plus 50% of your Social Security benefits. So again, depending on where you are, it kind of gives you an idea of what percent of your benefits are taxable. And the final question, what's the most important thing you can do now to prepare for retirement? Start, that's right. If you, 40 years till you retire, you want $2 million. If you start now, you'll have to save $573 a month. If you wait 10 years, it not only increases by 100%, it increases by about 120%. Notice if you wait 10 years after that, it more than doubles again. Notice 10 years. Notice 1 year, 160,000. And so the point is we need to start now. One final comment about Social Security. Social Security just put this out. It's called Social Security, Understanding the Benefits. It's probably the best Social Security pamphlet that I've read, and that's in 12 years. They've tried to simplify it and to make it easy to understand. And so I think it's a good document. You can just download that from the web. But saving for retirement is not an easy thing. It is difficult, it is time consuming. But the single most important thing you can do is live on your budget and you save whatever your savings goal is. Again, I recommend 20%, but that's based on my experience. But saving aside for retirement and saving aside for your kids' missions and your kids' education and for missions for you and your spouse. So that's the challenge. And again, my goal here was to scare you. And hopefully I have. Hopefully I have. Because if you don't do it, who will? And again, I see these people who are 65 or 60 years old and getting ready to retire and they have nothing saved for retirement and they still have 20 years on their home payment, I say, it's going to be tough. So the best thing we can do now is we can start and start early. We talked about company qualified retirement plans, defined benefit and defined contribution plans, and hopefully we understand those differences. Most of you will have defined contribution plans, a 401k or a 403b. Hopefully you'll use them. Remember, our priority of money is the first thing, get the match. So free money first, tax advantaged money second, and tax efficient and tax free money third. And then we talked about individual retirement plans. And you know what, assuming your income limits are low enough, you can do both a 401k and you can do an individual retirement account. So, and that's my case. I'm doing both a Roth 401k and then we just put money in this last weekend for the Roth IRA. So we can do that. And then there's plans for small businesses. Again, if you're a small business of one person, you can do a SEP IRA. And those amounts are fairly high. And then also, it's just important that we understand Social Security. Understand how it is, how it was set up, why it was set up. You know what you're going to be contributing? You know, I would plan on some, probably not an awful lot. But it was there and we've contributed to it. Okay, questions? Eric.
I know you have the like $2 million retirement amount there. I was just
Okay.
curious. Of course, it's hard to predict, but how much would you recommend if you want to live like an average middle style lifestyle in retirement? Like, what's a good range to have saved up?
Probably, it depends on whether you have, so let's figure out Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
Let's figure out if you have anything from defined benefit plans. When my wife took the class, she was pleased to know that she could spend money and still survive retirement.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the goals that we've given you of saving 20% is a good goal. And I think if you will do that, you will find that you'll be able to accomplish the retirement goals that you set. And do you have to have $2 million saved at retirement? No, that's just a number I used. But if you'll save, the key is the saving. And what are we learning? Let's just step back. What's the Lord trying to teach us? From living on a budget and saving and investing. Discipline. Well, discipline, sacrifice, putting others first. And all of this we'll all be paying our tithes and we'll be paying our offerings and giving to others. And charity, kindness. And what lessons will we be teaching our children if we're following these same things? A challenge that I hear, it says, no one ever taught this to me. Why did I have to wait until I was 58 years old to learn this? I've heard that. And as we're living those things, we'll be teaching our children. And maybe that's the greatest blessing there, to see your kids being able to do well. Any other final questions on retirement? Okay. Thanks, everyone.